Hey guys, Jay here, welcome to EonsOfBattle, and today I'm going to show you how I paint guns on my miniatures. Here are the paints I'll be using. So the first thing I did was I primed the models with some Vallejo gray primer. You could also use a rattle can primer, but I always prefer to use an airbrush primer just because it's a thinner layer of paint buildup, and so you don't lose any details. Once that was dry, I then base coated both the models with some Games Workshop lead belcher. Now I watered it down a little bit so that I wouldn't get such a heavy coat that it would block out all of the primer. I want to keep the guns at this point fairly light so that there'll be a little bit more contrast when it comes to washing them. That's also why I started with a gray primer as opposed to a black primer. Once that was dry, I then began adding my shades. First, a heavy shade of Citadel Nuln Oil. This is going to help add some contrast, and it's going to help bring out some of the shapes inside of the weapon. Once that was dry, I then added a much lighter shade of Citadel Urgrax Earth Shade. Now this is going to just give it a little bit of a rusty old feel to the weapon. You can also just hit it with another layer of Nuln Oil if you want the gun to look maybe a little newer or a little less tarnished. But since this is an Orc Shooter and an auto gun, I want them to have an old feel to them. Once my shades were dry, I then began preparing my highlight. It's going to be a 50-50 split between Formula P3 White and Citadel Runefang Steel. This is going to be a very, very high contrast highlight, and I think it's going to help bring out some of the shapes within the weapon. So you don't have to edge highlight every single surface. I would stick mostly to the upper portions of the weapon, anything that you would think the light would glint off of the metal. I'd particularly hit all of the easier areas to get to, especially if you were batch painting this. I think you'd very quickly discover which areas were the most prudent to hit. Any areas that are obviously behind the model or under a cloak, you don't need to hit at all. But I think that this highlighting really helps bring out the shape in the weapon. Now on this Orc Shooter, since there were such pronounced rivets, I picked them all out with my highlight color. And then once I had all the rivets picked out, I then went back into my edge highlighting. Now for this edge highlight, you're going to want to make sure that you have a very, very small amount of paint on your brush because you don't want to add on too much paint all at once. You want it to look almost like the light is catching the edge of the weapon as opposed to just painting a line. This edge highlighting helps any of the shapes within the gun, it helps them from getting lost. And there you have the finished product. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, you can leave a comment if you have any ideas or techniques you'd like to see us do. You can follow us on Facebook at EOB Fans, and you can follow us on Twitter at EonsOfBattle. Thanks for watching.